Professor Babones, please stay with us because we've got some updates coming through. I would first like to play out what the Prime Minister said as he was making the opening address ahead of session number 2.
एक खुशखबरी मिली है। हमारी टीम्स के हार्डवर्क से और आप सभी के सहयोग से नई दिल्ली G20 लीडर्स समिट डिक्लेरेशन पर सहमति बनी है। मेरा प्रस्ताव है कि इस लीडर्स डिक्लेरेशन को भी एडॉप्ट किया जाए। मैं इस डिक्लेरेशन को एडॉप्ट करने की घोषणा करता हूं। इस अवसर पर मैं हमारे मंत्रीगण, शेरपा और सभी अधिकारियों का हृदय से अभिनंदन करता हूं, जिन्होंने अथाक परिश्रम करके इसे सार्थक किया है और इसलिए वे सभी अभिनंदन के अधिकारी हैं। मैं अब मीडिया से मित्रों को रिक्वेस्ट कर रहा हूं कि अगर आप इजाजत दें तो हम आगे का काम करना चाहते हैं। आप सभागृह से बाहर जा सकते हैं।
So what we had said here at CNN News 18, where the hints of an agreement over a joint declaration or a communique, that seems to be confirmed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Professor Babones with us, Pallavi Ghosh with us. But Zaka, big moment this, that all leaders, nations and the Sherpas together have been able to agree on the wording of the joint declaration. And that's what Prime Minister said as chair. I move the resolution to adopt this declaration.
Absolutely. So the big news, the big breaking news that's coming from the Bharat Mandapam is that the New Delhi Declaration has now been officially adopted by the group of 20, now the group of 21 participants. So the New Delhi Declaration, they have finally managed to thrash it down. They have found a consensus approach where the language that is acceptable to all parties has been included. And the Prime Minister, you just heard him moments ago, announcing it to the world that yes, the New Delhi Declaration has been adopted at the Delhi-hosted G20 summit. So India continues in that long line of host countries who have been able to find a joint declaration. From 2008, since the back of the global financial crisis, when this G20, the group of 20, got elevated to the heads of state level, it has always found space, wording and texting to try and get a joint declaration through, and that has now been officially adopted. That tradition continues in the Delhi edition and the Delhi declaration as well. Now, what the exact text of that language is, we don't know yet, because particularly on the Ukraine war, there were differences even up till earlier this morning. But the indications that we were getting, first from Jake Sullivan, the US National Security Advisor, who said we are moving in the direction of an acceptable language. Then the Chinese, I mentioned this in the last chat as well, the Chinese were happy with the phraseology used by Amitabh Kant yesterday, saying that the Chinese have always been very positive when it comes to multilateral events. So they took that as a right signal. And I also believe that when Jaishankar and Lavrov met in East Asia Summit just a couple of days ago, there was a quiet reassurance given from the Russian side that they trust India to have Russia's best interests during the adoption of this New Delhi Declaration. So the big story, and this is a big development, let's not try and downplay it.
Yes.
I think it's a huge achievement to the hundreds of hours of hard work and negotiations, and every word, every punctuation mark. You spoke to Amitabh Kant, at the event, at the town hall, and he said literally there's a fight for every punctuation mark, and to finally agree to a text where all 20 countries by consensus are adopting what will now be known as the New Delhi Declaration. I think that is a big development.
Absolutely, and you were right, Amitabh Kant, and congratulations and kudos to the Sherpa and Sherpas of all the nations, because the negotiations on the joint declaration happened at the Sherpa meeting, and this was in Manesar, and they were at it for at least 3 to 4 days. 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. is what the negotiations were going on. That's what Amitabh Kantji had said when he spoke to us at the G20 town hall. Pallavi Ghosh, significant. The big icing on the cake is also happening. We're all standing by. There's a huge hub that's happening right in front of me at the Himalaya Hall, because 4 p.m. is the presidency briefing, and they're all walking in, and the question is going to be, what is the wording? What is the structure of the joint declaration? Will they make it public today, or will they hold it till tomorrow? We'll have to wait and watch. But Pallavi, big gains and a big relief also, because the New Delhi Declaration is ready, and this is more nations than ever before on the G20 platform.
Huge achievement, huge feather in the cap, and we were talking about this since yesterday, and especially this morning, that the team Prime Minister has been extremely working hard on this, because it was also a high-pitched battle, it was also a huge prestige battle, and essentially I think we can say this, that India did it. I mean, Bharat did it, we showed it. I mean, there was a condescending attitude we would often notice from some quarters, wondering whether New Delhi can actually do it. Well, I think we've walked the talk and showed to the world that yes, of course we can, and that's the big word. And before I'm going to come back to you, Anand, just a couple of points which is coming to us by way of government sources on why India's presidency has actually been huge, and it has been huge achievements. 73 outcomes, that's the lines of effort, 39 presidency documents, and with these 112 outcomes and presidency documents, we have more than doubled the substantive work from the previous presidency. So that's how the momentous India's presidency has been. There have been large number of outcomes and much more in comparison to the previous presidencies, and the Indian presidency of the G20 has in fact been the most ambitious and action oriented in all of G20 presidencies. So that's the claim, that's the buzzword, that's the achievement coming in from the government, and we stand tall today. I mean, this is something which is India is always going to make the point that our way of negotiating, not being rigid, reaching out to everyone and considering everyone to be one big family, perhaps is the way to go ahead as far as the diplomatic circles are concerned.
2 to 5 times the number of outcomes and annexed documents as compared to the previous presidencies. And India's footprint on the G20 outcomes: Deccan high-level principles on food security and nutrition. Chennai, it was the high-level principles for blue ocean economy. In Goa, there was a roadmap for tourism. In Gandhinagar, it was implementation roadmap for land restoration. And in Jaipur, it was a call for action to enhance MSMEs' access to information. So there have been outcomes that have been achieved at every level, and perhaps the maximum number of outcomes ever at a G20 presidency. But Professor Babones, the New Delhi Declaration is ready. At a time when we see a deeply polarized world, there has been consensus that has prevailed. That's the indication.
It's a testimony to the success of Indian diplomacy that we have this declaration, despite there being a state of virtual proxy war between the United States and Russia, despite strong tensions between China and the United States, and frankly between China and India. That India has been able to achieve a consensus is really a testament to the skills of India's diplomats. That said, it's also a testament to the increasing importance of India in the global economy. All of the countries that are represented at the G20 are there because they want to make an impression on India. Their top priority is not so much making an impression at the G20 as making an impression on India and on Indians. They're all vying for a slice of India's success story. And so that would have given India quite a lot of leverage in bringing people to the table. I mean, the most difficult, of course, would have been China. It's relief to see that China is joining in this declaration. But it's certainly, no small feat for India to have pulled this off at a time of such high tensions.
Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has tweeted today at the G20 Leaders Summit, New Delhi Leaders Declaration. That's the hashtag being used, is officially adopted. PMO India, Narendra Modi's emphasis on human-centric globalization and our concerns of Global South have found resonance and recognition. Thank